I gotta be fair, there's a lot to pick apart in the arena of male fitness influencers. Male fitness influencers usually market towards the younger crowd, who tend to be the most susceptible to bullshit. I'm going to elaborate on a couple commonly held misconceptions. Probably the most pervasive bullshit peddled to young men is that you can be simultaneously jacked and shredded. You can be jacked and relatively lean, yes, but not shredded. Unless you are a genetic anomaly or are on massive doses of steroids, you can only be shredded and jacked simultaneously for a very short period of time, usually just long enough to do a photo shoot or competition. That's because in order to gain muscle, unless you're really fat starting out, you almost always have to be in a calorie surplus. The art is to be in enough of a calorie surplus, namely a protein surplus, to create an anabolic environment, without it being so much that you gain too much body fat. But you will gain body fat. There is no dancing around that. Unless you are an obese beginner or on massive doses of steroids, you can't just gain muscle without gaining fat too. They go hand in hand. The key to maximizing muscle gain and minimizing fat gain is to prioritize protein calories, get enough sleep, and train hard. We are talking heavy weights. To think you're going to get really strong and build a lot of muscle without having to put on weight, including a little body fat, is delusional, unless you're really obese starting out. You allow for a small amount of weight gain without letting your body fat get out of control, somewhere over 20% body fat probably being too much. That brings me to my next point, realistic expectations. Muscle takes years to build. Under ideal conditions, you can maybe hope to pack on 10 to 12 pounds of muscle a year as a beginner, and maybe more like 5 pounds a year as an intermediate. You are not going to look like Chris Hemsworth without taking special vitamins. You can get close, naturally, if you have good genetics and about 10 years to devote, but that's not going to happen in 6 months or even a year. Next, let's talk about arm and ab workouts. Unless you have an established strength base, using compound movements already, devoting large chunks of your time to bicep workouts is not very smart. If you're a newbie, your biceps will grow from doing rowing movements and chin-ups, which will give you a lot more bang for your buck. Isolation movements shouldn't make up a substantial part of your program until you are at least 6 months into a solid program focused on big compound movements. Bench, overhead press, deadlifts, squats, chin-ups or pull-ups, and a horizontal row. I see way too many young guys in the gym spending an hour doing bicep curls and abs and don't have shit to show for it. It's like trying to put rims on a shitty car. Build your foundation first, then worry about ornamentation. I'm sure if I gave this more thought, I can think of plenty of other examples of heinous misinformation targeted towards young men. You will save yourself a lot of time by sticking to the basics and eating a high-protein diet. Do those two things consistently over several years, and I can pretty much guarantee you'll be built like a tank.